Saturday morning, August 13th, 2022. Who is the greatest baseball player of all time? Who are the top 10 baseball's all-time player matchups? I wrote a book about Hall of Fame baseball players, matching them up in 20 categories to see who beat the other person in the matchup. What are the categories? Career average, runs scored, runs batted in, home runs, triples, doubles, singles, total bases, slugging, on base, stolen bases, 100 RBI season, 100 runs scored seasons, most runs scored in a season, most RBI in a season, highest average in a season, most hits in a season, most 200 hit seasons, career total hits. This video, Chapter 15, 200 hit seasons. Who had the most? Pete Rose. 10 of them. You can't deny the fact. Even though Pete Rose is not in the Baseball Hall of Fame, he should be. You can't deny the fact. According to his resume and stats, achievements, and accomplishments, he had 10 200 hit seasons. Incredible. How does he match up with the following 24 players? Ty Cobb, Derek Jeter, Lou Gehrig, Paul Waner, Willie Keeler, Wade Boggs, Charlie Gehringer, Roger Hornsby, Stan Musial, top 10. Bill Terry, Al Simmons, Sam Rice, George Sisler, Jesse Burkett, Kirby Puckett, Tony Gwynn, Chuck Klein, Vlad Guerrero, Paul Molitor, top 20. Then Lou Brock, Rod Carew, Roberto Clemente, Ed Delante, and Harry Heilmann. Rose had 10. The 25th person, Heilmann had 4. The rest of the players, Cobb had 9, Jeter 8, so forth down the list. 200 hit seasons. How does Pete Rose match up? Not good. Out of the 24 players I just mentioned, he only beat 1. He had 20 losses and 3 tied in 20 categories. His only win, Lou Brock. He lost 20 times and had 3 tied. Not to diminish what Pete Rose did, but when you match him up with these 24 players, it's interesting in the categories. Ty Cobb, he beat him. He beat Rose 15-5. Derek Jeter, he beat Rose 13-7. Lou Gehrig wins 14-6. Paul Waner 13-7. Willie Keeler 13-6-1. Wade Boggs 10-9-1. Charlie Gehringer 14-6. Roger Hornsby 14-6. Stan Musial 14-5-1. Bill Terry 11-9, close. Al Simmons 14-6. Sam Rice 13-5-2. George Sisler 13-7 wins. Jesse Burkett 13-5-2 wins. Kirby Puckett close 11-9. Kirby. Here's a tie. Tony Gwynn, Pete Rose 10-10. Chuck Klein wins 13-7. Here's another tie. Vlad Guerrero 10-10. Paul Molitor wins 11-9. That's close. Pete Rose beat Lou Brock 14-4-2. His only win. Rod Carew wins 11-9. Close. Here's another tie. Roberto Clemente, 10-10. Ed Delante beats Rose 15-5. Harry Heilman wins 12-8. Interesting, huh? So in 200 hit seasons matchups, the 24 players who also have 200 hit seasons, Rose had the most, but when you matched him up with all these other players, Rose only wins one matchup. He ties 3 of them. He tied Gwynn, Guerrero, and Clemente. But he lost to Cobb, Delante, Gehrig, Simmons, Hornsby, Gehringer, Musial, Jeter, Wayner, Sisler, Klein, Keeler, Rice, Burkett, Heilman, Terry, Puckett, Carew, and Boggs. Some of those matchups were close, but in 20 categories, didn't match up very well. Now remember, we had another chapter on Pete Rose. It was singles. Rose has the most singles of all time. Remember that chapter? How did he match up there? Chapter 7, Pete Rose had 3,215 singles. He's number 1. He had 6 wins there. He beat Nellie Fox, Appling, Brock, Yount, Yastrzemski, Henderson. But Rose had 17 losses and 1 tied. This chapter, 1 win, 20 losses, 3 tied. By comparison, let's see, I've been doing all these videos in my chapter. By comparison, when you match up the leaders in a category, for example, the home run category, Babe Ruth won 24-0. 24 other players, he beat them all. Ty Cobb, I can look at it here. In fact, I've got this book right here, and it has all the chapters on all the matchups. If you want all the detail, you'll have to get the book. But how did Ty Cobb do? In his matchups, he had 21 wins. That was career average matchups. So see what I'm talking about? If you match up with the 24 following players, if you're number 1 in the category, yet you match up, how do you do? Poor showing in the matchup. There's another matchup. It'll be career hits. That's in another chapter. We'll see how Pete does there. Pete's a good player. He deserves the Hall of Fame. So what do you think of that chapter, Pete Rose? What's next after 200 hit seasons? What chapter? That was chapter 15. In this book, we're going to get into another matchup. I've got it right here. This will be interesting. Career hits average per game. What do I mean? A player played so many games in his career and he totaled so many hits. 2,000 games, 2,000 hits would be 1 hit per game. Do you know who has the highest ratio of hits per game played in his career? Do you know who it is? Ed Delante. Average 1.41 hits per game played. Let's match him up with the following 24 players who have the best ratio of hits per game. We'll get into that next. Thanks for watching here. I'm out.